No, I'm not turning it off, no editing. We're just plowing through.
All right.
So tell me who you are, what you do, and where we're at here.
My name is Trevor Watson. I'm head cellarman at the King Brewery, downtown Indianapolis. We're at the Comac, which is our keg filler washer. Yeah, so essentially what this machine does is it takes a keg from empty or full, it goes through the car wash, cleans the outside of the keg, then it gets moved onto this walking beam.
Yep, so the big box right here is the car wash. Got, I saw the other day, it's got jets there. We see kegs moving in.
Right.
I saw it's got jets on the sides, on the top,
and on the bottom.
Below.
Yep.
And it's basically just, it's only cleaning the outside of the keg at this point, right?
Correct, yes. Just the outside at that point.
Yeah. Get that all nice and clean. So then what happens?
Then we move over to the walking bar area. The keg gets pushed onto the head one, which is a rinse if there's anything in it. And then it also introduces caustic to the keg. Once the caustic's introduced and the timer goes off, it moves it on to the next location, which it just stands and hangs out with caustic inside. That's kind of the soaking part.
All right, let me catch up to you here. So they're upside down the entire time. After they come out of the outside washer, you said that first head does what again?
The first keg is the caustic. So it purges the keg out if there's anything in there, excess beer, old beer. And then it fills it up with caustic, and then as you can just see, it goes and it sits right there and just waits for its turn to go onto the acid cycle.
Got it. So basically, that's just giving the caustic. It's full of caustic, or is it drained out already?
It's full of caustic.
Full of caustic.
So that's going to soak. Then it's going to get moved on to the second head.
I was going to say, how long is it sitting here? About a minute, maybe?
About a minute. I'm not exactly sure we can time it, but there are recipes for half barrels and 6 barrels on this machine, and both timings are different.
Okay, right. Yeah, we're doing small ones today. So.
Right. So then it gets on to the second head, which is the acid head. So what it's going to do is it's going to purge out all that caustic because they're not going to want to act together very well.
We don't want to commingle those things.
Right. So it's gonna purge all those out.
Water rinse.
It's gonna do a water rinse, and then it's gonna fill it up with acid, and then it's gonna purge that out as well and rinse it. Then it'll move over to the third head, which is the steam sanitizer. So it pumps steam through. You're gonna be able to see it bubbling here in a minute once it starts going. The outside of that keg gets extremely hot. After that, it purges it out.
There's our steam.
Yep. After that, it purges it out with CO2. And then it gets moved on to the final head, which does another CO2 purge. And then it fills it up with beer.
Wow. What an amazing process. And then, step over here. So, the caustic has time to soak, while the other things happen pretty quickly.
Right.
The filling has to take place, though, at the same time as everything else. It seems like it would take a little longer to do the filling, but I guess that's pretty quick.
The filling is pretty quick on these. Essentially what's happening is you've got a back pressure fill with a product pump pushing beer in. So you're able to fill a lot faster with keeping the pressure down without having any foam out.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about that keg that just came off the line there is pretty warm still with beer inside, and there's no foam out. So pretty small amount of loss on this machine.
Wow. Yeah, so that came straight off the steam side. So the keg's still pretty warm.
Very warm.
On the outside, you're pushing super cold beer into it.
Correct.
No shock or anything from doing that?
We've not noticed any, no.
Yeah. And because you've got a basically a closed filler, what's your oxygen uptake like on that, or
oxygen,
is it minimal? I mean,
it's minimal.
Nothing.
Oxygen, if I can remember correctly, last time we checked it directly off this machine, in a 6 barrel, I believe, was in the 20s of parts per billion, and then in a half barrel, it was like 15 or 5.
Wow.
Somewhere in that range.
That's the reading, not the extra amount added.
Yes.
That's just your DO reading.
That's the reading in the keg itself.
So similar to what we just got off the canning line.
Correct.
Around 20, something like that.
Right. Obviously you want minimal pickup. If you start noticing large pickup, something's wrong, something's going on. You need to work on that and figure that mistake out. Industry standard is below 50 parts per billion. Yeah, so the machine does a really good job. We've noticed with this particular machine and the way it cleans and how well purged out and where the oxygen content is, we've been able to add at least a month per batch, per beer, house beer on everything.
Wow, of shelf life.
Yeah, correct.
That's awesome. Now you were also telling me, since basically there's no oxygen pickup here and it's a mechanical process all the way through.
Minimal. There might be a little bit, but it's very minimal. Yeah.
But the only time we would have to be concerned is if one of the mechanical processes doesn't work right.
Correct.
And in that case, I guess the machine's going to fault out and tell you about that?
The machine will fault out. The machine will tell you that this keg got rejected. It'll tell you the reason it got rejected. It'll shut the whole line down until you what's the word I'm looking for? Until you recognize on the HMI that there is a rejected keg on there.
Yeah.
So the entire thing shuts down. Everything just stops. And
why would that happen? I'm curious. Why would it reject something?
It could get rejected if it timed out on, hey, we're purging this keg out, but we're not getting the pressure that we want in this amount of time, which means that maybe it wasn't a good seal with the head.
I see.
I think that's been the most common issue that we've had. We've had some other faults in other parts of the machine, like a pump will go out, we've got to trip the breaker back on. But other than that, it's mostly, hey, the machine's not seeing exactly what the specs are and the set points it wants to see during that cycle. It's kicking that keg off.
Gotcha. Do you ever see any like punctured kegs or anything like that? It's probably pretty rare.
Very rare. The kegs can usually handle, I believe, 3 times what they're rated for. There are small PRVs on the tops of our kegs, which are supposed to blow before anything else does. I think we've seen some frozen kegs come back.
Frozen?
Yeah, in the winter, the PRV will blow.
I see, I see.
But I don't think we've ever actually put any through this machine and seen anything blow.
Alright, so basically if everything happens the way it's supposed to over here, you don't get any fault lights. We just end up at the end of the line over here, right, with perfectly cleaned and refilled kegs with a low amount of oxygen.
Correct.
Here we'll get a shot of it moving on. Here comes a finished keg down the line.
That last thing that it sits on is the weight.
Oh,
so that's the final check. If it's not correct in the weight that we have in the preset, it'll pick that off.
You know you didn't get the right amount of fill on it.
Correct.
Wow, that's awesome. And so what about people who don't have a fancy, incredible system like this? They still got to clean the kegs.
Right.
Various different processes I know out there, little 2-head, manual setups where you put the kegs on there and it kind of goes through a cleaning cycle all the way up to fully manual operations.
Yeah, purely sink.
What's that?
Purely sink at that point in time.
Yeah. So I guess though the filling process is similar. You're still in sort of a closed loop. So even with manual filling, you should be picking up fairly minimal oxygen.
Yes, but I would say that the biggest thing to watch would be how much the keg's purging in the cleaning part of the process.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to have a lot of your issues.
Yeah.
So that keg's not purged out correctly, you're going to get oxygen in there.
Yeah.
The filling side, I mean, if you're doing it manually directly off the tank, or even, something like an IDV filler, a small 2-head filler, there really shouldn't be anything but beer in that line and CO2 pushing it. So you really shouldn't have that much oxygen unless you've got a bad seal somewhere.
Right.
But I think you'd be noticing some beer coming out.
I guess the other issue would be maintaining your chemicals, maintaining your cleaning chemicals, making sure your caustic has at the right, percentage, dilution. Same with your acid, and just checking those things, making sure that you're getting a full clean and your chemicals are right.
Yeah, you want to make sure that your chemicals. Typically, in a lot of those, I've only noticed about one chemical that you have in there, probably caustic. You might switch it up every week to caustic or acid, so your kegs are possibly getting that triple clean that they want. But you're typically doing about one chemical at a time during the process, and it's purging it out. You might have some sanitizer as well, I guess.
And just for the record, maybe you want to explain why you don't ever want your acid and your caustic to come into contact.
I believe they would neutralize each other. That's best case scenario.
I just say that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, does it create like some sort of a hydrochloric acid or something?
Some of them do. I'm not sure which chemicals will do that.
Yeah, I guess it depends on which
right,
ones.
Because you got some acids out there that are straight nitric. You've got some that are phosphoric and nitric combined with a few other parts and pieces in there to make up whatever that blend is that chemical company is trying to make happen. Yeah, you just don't want to mix pretty much anything that shouldn't be mixed, like an acid. I do know that bleach and rapidine are no good. Iodine, rather, I guess.
Like you said, at best case, they're going to neutralize each other, and at worst case, it can create something really toxic.
They could create an off gas, that could harm your employees.
Yeah.
This machine itself, though, as far as maintaining your chemical amount, there's conductivity readers in each one of the cleaning tanks behind that supply to each stage of the machine's cleaning cycles. So those conductivity meters run through the PSL, and if the conductivity is getting too low, there's a pump inside our chemical room that actually will feed the chemical over as needed.
Wow. So it does that automatically.
Yes.
I noticed we've got some beautiful artwork on one of your kegs there.
Yeah.
Do you ever worry about the outsides of your kegs? I mean, obviously they get stickers on them like that, and people draw on them apparently like that.
My guess is that
or that's some sort of a marking of what it is. Or...
Yeah, they either probably come from the place that they were delivered to, or from a distributor. That'd be my guess.
Yeah. Do you worry about that sort of thing? Trying to get them to go out pristine, or?
Well, I mean,
not really.
It's not really with as many kegs as we run through, it's not really something we can really focus on.
Yeah.
Never been brought up, honestly. As long as the outside's clean. What we're really focusing on, though, is there's no dirt or buildup on it. Stickers and whatnot will leave residue. It'd be a lot of work to sit down and goog on every single one of these kegs one by one. But what we're really worried about is that last head, because that's the head that doesn't have any chemicals or any sterilization or anything else. It's just beer and CO2.
Yeah.
And making sure that the valve on the top, the sand key, is clean before it hits this line.
And everything, I mean, seriously, everything coming off there looks so nice and clean. I mean, the orange rim looks like it's brand new.
Right.
That's great. All right. Any other thoughts on kegging?
Not that I can think of right now.
All right. Well, Trevor, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yep.